So, hey, so you were actually in Amsterdam over the last week. How did you like it?
I was in Amsterdam, and I got to tell you guys, Netherlands is the shit. I love the Netherlands. Like, the public transit is awesome. Like, all the streets are stone. Everybody rides bikes everywhere. Everybody is thin and beautiful. Everybody speaks English. You know, it's just like all of these things that I really enjoy. Lots of beer. The drinking age is 16, y'all.
What?
Yep. 16.
Damn.
I don't smoke weed, but weed is legal. There is a red light district where prostitution is legal.
So how are the women there? So, like, I was always curious because, like, you always hear about prostitutes, like, you know, they're probably like old in the tooth or whatever. Like, so were they hot?
So I was astonished.
Really?
So there in the United States, if you see prostitutes on the corner, they usually look like they have been beaten up with a dick to the face and put away wet, right?
Yes,
like it's just like this
bad news.
And even if they're young, they look like they live on the streets. They look all beat up, whatever. The girls in Amsterdam are in a union. They're well paid. They have benefits. They have free sex testing, free STD testing. They have all this stuff.
Sex testing, I was going to say.
Yeah, she's like, you're good. You're good.
It works.
The women are so fucking hot. I was walking around with Gwinster, and he was just like, yeah, check out the red light district. I'm like, yeah, it's going to be trashy. I'm walking around, I'm like, I would fuck every one of these women.
Oh my God.
And the thing is, they are stone cold professionals. They've got these tricks, these subtle little tricks, where it's like, you know how if you're flirting with a girl and she gives you a certain look, you're like, I'm in.
Yeah, exactly.
They give you these personal, intimate looks where it's like you'll be walking by, and they have these weird mind tricks where it's like you look up and you're walking by, they're behind a door, right? And they look at you, and they
so it's like a window or something.
Yeah, everyone's behind a door. So every one of them, they're in a room with a door and a red light on them. So it's like you're just walking down.
How does that work? I mean,
they let you into their room. They pull the curtains. And
so it's a room.
Yes.
Wait, what?
So
you're walking down the street.
You're walking down a street, and then there's an alleyway, and there's like 50 rooms with the hottest women you've ever seen standing in a doorway in bikinis. And they're like 2 feet away from you. And here's the thing. Here's what gets me is they'll look at you, and they're in a bikini. They're some of the most beautiful women you've ever seen in life. They make eye contact with you, and they like smile and open the door. And you feel your body turn. Like you're just like I can't.
It's just like your hip is just moving for you.
Yes, and it's until you feel it, you don't understand because it's just like so. I just gotta say, you gotta see the red light district sometime. It is surreal. And,
so here in Amsterdam, if you go a little bit further out, the red light district gets a little.
So I was in a town called Utrecht.
Okay.
So here's the problem: is I can't show you guys pictures of this stuff because they've got basically guards and whatever.
So you can't even take shots.
You can't take pictures. They will fucking kill you. Like the people will hop out of nowhere and beat the shit out of you. So I don't have pictures of this stuff, but so I was in this town called Utrecht where they've got a red light district, which was just like a very short street with a bunch of middle-aged women, and I was the only person on the street.
Yeah.
So it was just like all of the women were just like, hey. I'm like, no.
So a lot of non-MILFs, basically. Yeah. Okay.
But in Utrecht also there is a riverboat section where there's like a bunch of. Every prostitute has her own riverboat.
What?
And there's people driving along this long
driving
dock.
Or in a boat?
No, you're driving a car along about 200 boats with a little walkway out to the boat.
So it's like a dock.
Yes.
Because I'm just thinking about the logistics here. It's like dock, boat,
and parking. And parking. So you park and hop out and go have sex with a woman in the boat.
In the boat, not in the car. Okay, wait.
No, every boat is a
brothel.
It's a brothel.
Wow.
And so it's like 100, like imagine 200 little boats on docks, and you walk out along the dock, and then each woman has her own little sex boat, and she pulls the curtains shut, and she fucks you for. And here's the thing: is that the hottest woman you've ever seen in your whole life is $50 for sex.
Bullshit.
I'm not lying to you.
Are the boats rocking in the waves? Like
if the boats are rocking, yes.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I was just watching like hordes of dudes. We're just driving along. Gwinster and I were driving along, and it was just like there's just dudes running in and out all the time.
$50. Yeah. Safe sex. You're not going to get jumped by the pimp.
Nope. It's perfectly safe. I mean, like, so here's the thing is, like, I know that we're talking a long time about Amsterdam, but this is a really interesting social experiment.
I want to hear about this.
Because Gwinster was telling me that, like, the Dutch women really kind of hate this phenomenon because it takes all the pressure off men. Because normally speaking, women are the gatekeepers of sex, and you have to do everything they want. So here it's just like, you go on a date, and the girl is just like, you're paying for my dinner, blah, 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 yap, yap, and he's just like, you know what, this date's over. Why? Because I'm going to go get my dick sucked.
It's just like I could pay $100 for a really nice meal, or I could just pay $50.
Yeah. I mean, it's
so
the
like, what
weirdest
happens?
thing.
So like, I'm just curious, like from the societal aspect, it's just like, do women just try harder then?
I think that it's a more equal thing because now at this point, the only thing that women and men are contributing to the relationship is personality. Where it's just like you're kind of equals now because men, the raging sex demon inside of men has an outlet.
It's tamed,
and there's no taboo about it. Like men, absolutely.
They're not like they're a jerk or anything like that. No. It's just like, oh, well, he's a red-blooded human being.
Yeah, I mean, like women look down on the prostitutes, but among people, it's not like you're like. It's not unusual to go to the red light district and have sex with the prostitutes. It's just like it's just like getting a cup of coffee.
Brain. Yeah, because
you're just like, oh, I'm gonna get a cup of coffee. Oh, I'm horny today. I'm gonna go have sex with an incredibly beautiful woman for $50.
This BBC podcast is supported by ads outside the UK.
Hello, I'm Katya Adler, host of the Global Story podcast from the BBC. Each weekday, we break down one big news story with fresh perspectives from journalists around the world. From artificial intelligence to divisive politics tearing our societies apart. From the movements of money and markets to the human stories that touch our lives, we bring you in-depth insights from across the BBC and beyond. Listen to The Global Story wherever you get your BBC podcasts.
I'm Jean Lee.
And I'm Jeff White.
And we're back with a brand new episode of our podcast, The Lazarus Heist, recorded in front of a live audience in New York City.
That's our new special live episode of The Lazarus Heist, the podcast about hacking and North Korea.
And we're returning soon with a second season.
So what better moment to listen to the whole of Season 1? Or, if you've heard it already, listen again. Remind yourself of the whole story.
For the new episode and for the whole of the first season, search for The Lazarus Heist wherever you found this podcast.
So sometimes you go home, you feel dirty, you cry, you stay hour in the shower because you want to take all that smell and feelings because people touch you. You don't take that feeling away because not your body it's dirty. It's your soul that is dirty.
Amsterdam, the capital of the Netherlands. Famous for its canals, bicycles, liberal lifestyle, and a popular destination for all kinds of party people. But this is not a story about partying in Amsterdam. This is a story about manipulation, harassment, and abuse of women. A story about sexual exploitation and human trafficking. The bleak reality behind the city's biggest attraction, Amsterdam's infamous Red Light District. Before we continue, a warning. This program contains graphic descriptions of violence, abuse, sexual exploitation, and human trafficking. How many women out of every girl you've ever met who worked here actually chose that life and liked her job?
Four. Okay. Yeah, 4.
Why does it make you emotional to talk about that?
Because it also brings me back from my whole experience of all those years. And I think I am very lucky with the life that I have now. But it's absolutely sad to say 4. And then from the 4, 1 is me. So it leaves you with 3 other girls that I know in almost 16 years being a prostitute that worked for themselves.
My name is Anne Holtel. I'm a Dutch storyteller and I was a so-called Amsterdammer for 15 years. I started researching the Dutch sex industry back in 2019 for a TV show that never aired due to the pandemic. During this research journey, I discovered that the world of prostitution in my former hometown has many dark sides. In this documentary, you're going to hear stories from people who work and live in this area and know firsthand what really goes on in the Red Light District. But before we start, I would like to give you an idea of what this district, internationally known for its red-lighted windows, sex shops, peep shows and coffee shops, actually looks like. Because De Wallen, as we Dutchies call it, is located in the heart of Amsterdam. the oldest and most beautiful part of the city. It's only a 10-minute walk from Amsterdam Central Station. Cross a bridge, turn right, and walk towards the Oude Kerk, the old church. Along the way, you pass picture-perfect narrow streets, hidden alleys, and typical gabled houses. But most of the tourists that come to the area are not interested in beautiful architecture or cultural sites. All they are looking for is carefree sex, drugs, and limitless partying. For these tourists, the district is little more than an adult amusement park. Amsterdam is the only city in the world where the historical city center is devoted to window prostitution. Behind the windows are small rooms where the sex workers ply their trade. This situation is different from a regular brothel, because the rooms are rented by individual women from landlords, and these landlords usually have a stronghold over the women because they decide who gets a window and who doesn't. Most of the windows are situated in a beautiful historic setting, like the ones around the old church. This is an area where you find a lot of Latin American sex workers. Behind the window, opposite the church, I see Maria, a 53-year-old Dominican woman who has been working in prostitution in this part of the district since 2016. I got to know her during one of my nightly walks in the area.
Hola, chica. No tengo agua, solo café.
Yo tengo agua.
Okay.
¿Cómo estás?
Nada, que me cambié de allí.
¿Por qué?
Porque ella...
I noticed that the fingers on her left hand are bandaged.
Un chico me pegó, me dio mucho nalgadas, así, duro.
She tells me it's the result of a struggle with the customer who hit her very hard. When she tried to fight back, he grabbed her hand, crushed her fingers, and then smashed her hand against the door on his way out.
Un día me pegaron en la cabeza y sí, porque como yo me sé defender, entonces yo me defiendo.
It's not the first time she has to deal with aggressive behavior. Maria says, once I got hit on the head, but because I know how to defend myself, I do that. I then asked her if there's a lot of violence in the area.
Hay mucha violencia aquí en ese barrio.
Sí, aquí hay mucha violencia en las calles, hay demasiado junkie. No era como antes más. La gente no te respeta, no te quiere.
Yes, there's a lot of violence and there are many addicts on the street. It's not like it used to be. People don't respect you, they don't want to pay, the landlords don't respect you, they treat you like garbage. Maria getting beaten is a common example of the violence that sex workers experience. Later on in this documentary, you will hear stories of heavy abuse and cruelty against several other women working in this area. Violence has always been present in the Red Light District, but in recent years the situation has been aggravated due to the event of mass tourism. Every day, huge throngs of tourists crowd the area, gawking at and harassing the sex workers. According to local residents Bert Nap and Els Iping, the situation has become untenable.
Well, the nuisance from tourism comes with a lot of noise, people shouting at the streets, so you wake up, they against your door and they vomit in the plants near your house. Everything you can imagine that you don't like. And when you get out the next morning, you're confronted with everything they left behind.
Thousands of tourists are walking along the canals, watching the women, and many people who come because of the image of sex and drugs. And they misbehave, because in Amsterdam everything is possible. And we do that ourselves by creating this image. Almost naked women behind the windows and coffee shops where you can get lost. Because they do get lost because the drug tourists want everything. So after being in the coffee shops, they buy coke in the streets and they drink beer and they use everything they can lay their hands on, and we found them on our doorstep totally out.
Bert Nap is a Red Light District resident since 1981. He saw his neighborhood change dramatically over the last decades.
When I came to live here, it was a pretty dark area. There was prostitution, there were many heroin addicts, a lot of criminal activity, and that area, luckily, is behind us. But after that, there was another change, and the neighborhood became more and more a tourist attraction, and prostitution became a tourist attraction. When I go through the neighborhood in the evening, I see groups of men walking around, laughing at the windows. Sometimes I want to record that to be able to state what is happening here. And once I was walking here on the canal, and there was a group of men that stopped at a window, and they were pointing at the sex worker. And the guy started bidding like he was in an auction. He was selling the girl to his friends. I recorded that situation, and it was so graphic. When I see someone with an iPhone, you know they are filming, and the girls know that. It happens that I'm walking behind someone with an iPhone, and suddenly all the curtains close, and the girls start yelling, no filming, no photographs. That's very stressful and disrespectful, because they are here in the open, but they do not want to be on all the socials all over the world.
A few weeks ago, we saw a whole group of men walk along the windows and making jungle noises. Well, in Holland, if you do that in a football match, the referee stops the match. Here, we accept that it happens to women, almost naked women, by men who have fun. It's humiliating, not only for the women behind the windows, but for all Amsterdammers.
It used to be so that there were men looking for a sex worker. Then some tourists came and saw this. But now it has completely changed, because this has become a neighborhood where a guy takes his girlfriend to see prostitutes, and a husband takes his wife to see prostitutes, and parents take their daughters to see prostitutes. I think Amsterdam is the only city where this happens. Sometimes I ask people when I see parents with their daughters walking around and looking at windows, do you have a prostitution area in the city you're from? Well, then they say, well, yeah, there is, but not very apparent. And then I ask, have you ever been with your wife and your daughters to your prostitution area? And then they start laughing and say, no, of course not. And then my next question is, and why here?
It's not only mass tourism that profoundly changed the Red Light District. Another development has maybe been even more influential: the decision of the Dutch government to lift the brothel ban. Since 2000, it's been legal to run a brothel in the Netherlands, provided that the owner obtains a license, adheres to a set of rules, and does not employ underage girls, undocumented women, or trafficked women. The police check this regularly. This rather unorthodox policy was an attempt to create a clean sex industry, but the result was quite different, due to another development. A few years after the legalization, the European borders opened up for poor European countries like Hungary, Bulgaria, and Romania.
When I started living here, there were sex workers, but we knew them by face. When my oldest son was little, he was allowed to ring the bell with one of them, and then she would wave to him. Since 2000, slowly, almost all Dutch women left the area, and we saw mainly Eastern European women come, but only for a short time, only for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then they were brought to other places.
Well, I sometimes say that Ludmila from Romania is working behind the window, and Jack from Liverpool comes over to pay her for sex. When I came to live here, the clients from the sex workers were mainly Dutch men and walking around secretively. And if I would encounter someone I knew in this neighborhood, they had to explain something, of course. But now the sex workers are coming from Eastern Europe, and the clients are coming from across the channel.
Confronted with the problems in the area, Els Iping, who has been a red light resident for over 40 years, tried to solve them by becoming a local politician for the district city center.
So I was elected, and one of the first things I did was say we make a project Red Light District. The Justice Department presented a report on the real situation in the Red Light District. And I was astonished when I read that report, and it opened my eyes for the real situation of the area where I was living with my children, eat ice cream at the parlor and around the corner. Women were exploited, that they had forced abortions, that they were beaten up if they didn't bring in enough money, that they had plastic surgery and had to enlarge their breasts. Since then, I can't walk on the Red Light District naively anymore.
Gina, a 40-year-old Dutch woman, started working in prostitution in the Red Light District in 1995, before the brothel ban was lifted. During 17 years, she witnessed the changes in the area from behind her window.
I think the real problem in the red light area is human traffic, pimps.
For privacy and safety reasons, we used the pseudonym and voice distortion.
Many women are here against their will, and it's been already there for 2 decades. As I can remember, there were women forced to do this job, so nothing changed. And maybe also how people see it, all the tourists who just come here for fun, drink, look at the woman, When the red light district get more popular and all the tourists who came, it was more like an amusement park. It was like the dance monkey show. If it would only be men, I speak for myself now, but I could handle it. But then all the women came, and sometimes even with children at 12 o'clock looking, look at the girl behind the window. Can you turn around? Hey, joke. No, I think that is very hard, and it should not be like, oh, let's have a laugh at all the girls there. I think that was sometimes also mentally very hard. When people, like 40, 50 people standing in front of the window and they ask you to turn around and they ask you to smile, they're making pictures of you and stuff like that. I think that was not nice. I always started early. I always tried to come like around 6 because then the shift changed. So you had, you could get some good clients. And then, getting a little bit busy around 9, 10, with normal clients. And then after that, the tourism came, people getting drunk and loud. So, I never stayed later than 12 o'clock. But I hear from all the girls that after 12, it's terrible. People are drunk, people are puking in front of your window. Women are screaming to you, No, it was very, it's not nice to work.
How did that make you feel?
Yeah, you feel very embarrassed, especially when a whole group of women is looking at you and they're like, look at you, you're just a whore, whatever. That makes you feel very empty and maybe sometimes also alone. Because, it's maybe also a little bit the reality, how people might think of you. If you see every day tourists making fun of you and laugh at you and make you turn around and bend over and shake your boobs, gives you not the best feeling about yourself.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about women working in prostitution?
That we're there because we want it. Many people think that we all love to have sex all day with a different kind of man, and that we're there just because we love money so much, and we just love it.
So what is the truth?
The truth is, I think that we don't want to be there, but sometimes because circumstances, you get sucked into it, and it's really, really hard to get out. And unfortunately, I think 90% is just forced. It's just come from different countries, and they get forced to do this, or lover boy or stuff like that.
Former police officer Raymond Venema worked in the Red Light District for 20 years. He was confronted by the problems in the area on a daily basis.
There is a lot going on in the red light area, but if you ask me the biggest problem, then I would say the women being exploited, trafficking, abuse. I think that's the biggest problem. When they lifted the brothel ban, the Dutch women disappeared from the windows. And instead, women came from Eastern Europe, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria. And when new countries joined the EU, you could count on women from that country coming to the Red Light District. If I asked them, okay, why do you end up here? And the general answer was, in Holland you can make good money. That's what they were told, but they didn't tell that it was for prostitution. So they expected to be a cleaning woman or in a restaurant. But the perpetrator had something else in mind. You would end up in prostitution. And if you are there not having trust in the police, not knowing what rights you have, where to go when you need help, then you're like trapped.
In addition to his regular police work, Raymond Venema also led the Dutch prostitution team that carried out checks in licensed brothels.
I've spoken with over 10,000 of women in the 20 years. Things that we checked when we are talking to the sex workers are, do they have the correct papers like the Chamber of Commerce, their own passport or identity card? Do they have the correct age of 21? So they need to be over 21 to rent a room. What's the resident status? Are they allowed to work here in the Netherlands to do this work? Hygiene, not of the people self, but the room. Actually, the main question is, are they voluntarily doing this work? That's what I want to know. Are they not forced to do this work? Many women don't feel being exploited, for example, but they are. And therefore they become a victim of trafficking. But to get that clear, you had many conversations with the people. You have seen many facts on the street, like a woman coming here to Holland to get good work and she will end up behind the window. That was not her idea, to get to Holland to get good money. Some of them knew they will end up in the window. If I asked them, okay, what does your family think about you doing here in the Netherlands? I work as a waitress. I do cleaning, because if they know that I'm working here, I'm ashamed for the family. That actually shows how hard it is to be open about the circumstances for the sex workers.
Are there any other circumstances that drive women to work behind the window?
For some families, like that you end up as a prostitute because your mom did, your grandma did. Other do like surviving for or getting money for an operation for mom or dad or a brother. Other were like being forced by family or sold by family to get some money. Some just looking for fortune, started on their own but found the wrong person on the street that seemed to be a pimp, and now she will pay him for security matters. Happens as well. That's how it works in a nutshell.
Do you think that women who are forced and scared are going to tell you the truth about their situation?
Never. At least not in the first or second conversation, and also not in the 10th. But if you're looking at the facts, because I was circling around there like 36 hours a week, daytime, nighttime. So you see a lot of what's happening on the street and in the brothel. If you combine all those facts, then you get a good conversation. Keep on mirroring what you see and keep the conversation open. And then sometimes you will get somewhere.
Did you meet women who were trafficked, abused or forced to work behind the window?
The answer is yes, I did.
You have spoken to a lot of women, but are there any numbers on how many women are forced?
If you look up in the books, they will say between the 10 or 90% of the whole community. But it's also a huge dark number, because they don't know how many people are working in prostitution.
During my time in the red light area, We had pimps from Suriname, we had pimps from Morocco. I think there were also some Dutch pimps, you know. That was like mainly in the 90s. And then after the 90s, like 2000, 2001, 2, human traffic came. That was a whole different story. So when all the Eastern European girls came with all the pimps and stuff and human traffic, yeah, it's starting to get darker at the red lights. It was a whole different vibe. I don't say that when we were there, the vibe was super good, but it was different. For us Dutch ladies, it was really hard to make money because we were not new anymore. And there was like this whole group of very skinny, beautiful young girls, 18 plus, yeah, who were there like almost 24/7 working nonstop. Yeah, it was a rough time back then. The money was not that super good anymore.
Gina uses words like pimps and boyfriends when she talks about prostitution and human trafficking. She also talks about lover boys. All three terms basically come down to the same thing. Men who manipulate or force women into prostitution, exploit them and make money of it. In legal terms, they are called human traffickers. She has seen them all.
The lover boy is a man, a boy who grooms young ladies into believing that together they will open a business or a restaurant. It's like a fairy tale, and the fairy tale getting darker and darker the more you get sucked in. It's like a whole psychological game that play with you and slowly getting the girls into the web by first making them believe that everything is peaches and cream and I love them so much and I have all the best interests in them. And then after a month or 2 months, depending on how many hurry the pimp has, yeah, he forced them sometimes to have sex with friends or, you know, they get raped. And then after the rape, you know, there's nothing left of your soul. And then they push them behind the window. And then, yeah, and it's game over. I know girls that maybe worked for a pimp, but how can I say it? They didn't have it bad. You know, of course they give the money, but they still had, if they wanted something, they get it. You know, if they want a nice bag or, you know, they want to go on a nice holiday, they went and they get everything. And then you also had the pimps who were super brutal. They let the girls work 17, sometimes 18 hours in the weekend and took everything. And they almost needed a bag for some food and some cigarettes. And I think there's a little bit of difference in between certain pimps because, yeah, on the end, they all do the same. But I think it has to do with how mentally ill they are themselves. I mean, you are quite something wrong with you if you do that to a woman.
Did you meet any women who were victims of human trafficking?
Yes, I met some, yeah, because, yeah, you work together or you work in a building and, yeah, you work close together. So you bond.
What happened? What was their situation?
Some had, yeah, very bad life. You come from a completely different country and they make you believe that you're going to work here in a hotel or you're going to work here in the club, you know, like a disco, dancing bar. And then you're here one day and they drop you off in a red light area and there's lingerie on the bed and condoms and, yeah, sort it out for yourself. And at the end of the evening, you need to have €1,000. I think that is, that's very sad.
Gina was never exploited by a pimp, but she was forced into prostitution due to circumstances which she will share later on in this documentary. During all those years in the Red Light District, she witnessed the effect of violence and abuse on fellow sex workers, up close.
You see girls who were bruised, but never in the face, because then you don't make money. So sometimes you see it on the back, you know, they have like, bruises. I met one girl. She always get hit on the head. So, yeah, she had like big lumps behind on her head, but yeah, you don't see it. So you cannot really tell the abuse if you don't know, because they also know what they're doing and how to hit them, you know, I mean.
But you knew.
Yeah, because you contact with each other. I mean, sometimes you do trios in the room or, you know, and sometimes I just also want a friend to talk to, you know. It's really hard to get connected with them because some of them are super afraid. You know, some pimps had guards in front of the doors for the girls. So with those type of women, it's super hard to connect. They also didn't do trios and stuff like that. They were really isolated from everything.
How did you deal with everything that you saw around you?
It becomes part of your life. And I was there to rescue myself, not to rescue other ones. And of course, it's really sad, all the things that you see, but you can do absolutely nothing. Because, yeah, you also don't want that they're waiting in front of your house when you come home. So, yeah, you listen sometimes to the stories that the girl said, but yeah, you can advise. Even with advice, you should be very careful.
Gina got acquainted with the windows at a very young age. Physically and emotionally abused by her stepdad, she ran away from home as a teenager and ended up in prostitution at the age of 15.
Yeah, you're alone, you're on the streets, you meet like the wrong people and they introduce you to this kind of business. So you end up somewhere in a sleazy club.
How old were you when you started working in the Red Light District?
Like 15 and a half.
Was that legal?
No.
What was it like to work in the sex industry in the Red Light District during your time?
When I was a child, I think that was the hardest part because, yeah, you're a child and what can be worse than having sex with 30, 40 men a night? Until the day, I cannot understand why nobody helped a child. I think that for me was the hardest part from working in the red light area. And all the stress, of course, and yeah, the lifestyle.
How many women out of every girl you've ever met who worked here actually chose that life and liked her job?
4. Yeah, 4.
Why does it make you emotional to talk about that?
Because it also brings me back from my whole experience of all those years. And I think I am very lucky with the life that I have now. But it's absolutely sad to say 4. And then from the 4, 1 is me. So it leaves you with 3 other girls that I know in almost 16 years being a prostitute that worked for themselves.
All the people, they have really a wrong idea about why the girls, they are standing on the windows. Most of the people, they think, oh, they like it. They have pleasures maybe. But actually behind every girl there, it's a sad story. Even if they don't show it, I work for many years and I meet thousands of girls. Trust me, no one is, not even one, you can say, oh, she's so happy. No, they pretend good. Yes, it's true. They fake it. Yes, they fake it. Very good.
This is the voice of Yasmina, which is not her real name because she wishes to remain anonymous. Yasmina is from Romania, and her childhood was dominated by extreme poverty and domestic abuse. When she was only 18, she saw no other option but to leave her country in search of a better life. But a better life never materialized. Instead, she ended up as a victim of human trafficking in the Red Light District of Amsterdam.
I'm from a little city in Romania. The situation in Romania at that time, that was really bad. So I have no place to work, for example. We have a difficult life home. My father being an alcoholic, and he's still an alcoholic. And my mother, she don't work because she have 3 children. And in that time, the woman was for making a lot of children, take care about the house, cooking for the men, kind of slave, for the men.
So when you graduated from school, how old were you?
18. Yeah, I finished that. And my parents, they say, okay, you cannot go to university. We don't have money. So you need to start to work. And then I think, what future I have there? The future of my mother? No way. I mean, my mother, she have really bad life with my father because my father many times, he beat her so bad that we need to go with her in the hospital. My mother, she tried to suicide many times, and I need to face this when I was 7 years. So I don't want that for me. And then I think I prefer to try to run away from Romania. Because in that time when I go, it was not legally, we cannot go legally out of Romania. So we need to run away from Romania. So I ran away. I go to Spain. In Spain, I was illegal. So I can work only in black. Nobody will take a Romanian girl. So I go to dance in the club. In the beginning, I was a stripper. But of course, for the stripper to the prostitution is just a small step,
While working in Spain, Yasmina befriended a group of Romanian men. Little did she know that meeting them was going to change her life forever.
And then I worked there for like a year or something till I learned the language. But in the meantime, I met a group of boys, but they was actually different from my city. They don't even was from my city. And there was human trafficking also with boys and girls also. And they arranged the Spanish passport for me so I can come in Holland and I can work in the Red Light District. Because they tell me, in Holland, it's better and there you can make a lot of money. And
what did you have to do in return?
Pay a lot of money. It cost me a lot, that passport. They bring me here, but with the condition that I need to pay them part of the money what I wait. So I have to pay like 2 years. I pay half for my money. So if I was doing 500 to 50, I give it away. My first day in the red light, I think I will remember it for the rest of my life. I was 20-something. I was a child. Mentally, I think I was still a child, For the first, I think, 1 hour and a half, I was opening the window. I closed the window. I opened the window. I closed the window because it was so strange feeling to stay there. I feel, how I feel? Like the monkeys in the zoo. Really. I feel like a monkey. And if you look good, they put a price on you. In the first hours, I cannot work because it was something what I don't understand it, It was difficult. And the feelings, that you stay there and people, they look to you. And really, it was me on the window and like 4 or 5 men front of the window looking to you. It's so strange feelings. But after that, you start to build a system,
No, I don't.
I call it before I change the chip, you change the chip.
The chip in your brain.
Yeah. So you are there, but physical, but mental, with your feelings and your heart, you're not there. It's easier because imagine if you are there and you realize that you have 20, 25, 30 men having sex in one night. And you feel like you are abused. You feel it many times. Because to me, it sometimes happened that for a few seconds, I was back there in the room, And then really you feel like they rape you. But that, of course, till you get there, that you know how to do it and you learn how to make the switch every evening when you put yourself in the window, it's a long way. So sometimes you go home, you feel dirty, you cry, you stay hour in the shower because you want to take all that smell and feelings because people touch you. You have a lot of hands touching you and you stay hours in the shower, hours, and you don't take that feeling away because not your body it's dirty, it's your soul that is dirty. And most of the girls, they do it like this. Because trust me, most of them, before they go there, they cry, they pray, and when you see them in the window, they look perfect. And many girls, they prefer to take drugs, to go in alcohol. They choose different way to escape, to say like this.
The group of Romanian traffickers weren't the only people that exploited Yasmina.
The head of the group, he get half every day for me. And my boyfriend, he was part of the group, and that was the strategy, how they do it. He get the rest because he was my boyfriend.
But you didn't know he was part of the group.
Yeah, I know he was part of the group, but I was so naive and I believed that he really loved me, and we really do something together. Because these kind of groups, they have a strategy, They look for the weak person, you know. I was a weak girl because I was coming from a family with a lot of problems. So what they think, these kind of women, they need protection. They need to feel that you are part of something, that somebody's there for you to protect you, you know, because this is what you miss home. Yeah. So they know exactly how to do it. They, for example, if a new girl is coming to say like this on the group, they bring it in the group, every time they will find the boy to match her. But that boy, he will be under the control of the leader. Like me, there was thousands of girls, and they are still. Because this is the system.
After 2 years of continuous sexual exploitation, Yasmina's traffickers and her so-called boyfriend were arrested and extradited to Romania because their passports were false. Yasmina was finally free, but she stood empty-handed.
We buy a house, we buy a car, we start a small business, but I have nothing of that because he get it everything. He was on his name. And after years of working and selling my body, my soul, my everything, you know, I get nothing. You don't want to go back, but you don't know also what you're gonna do. You don't want to turn back in the girl who was in the window, but you don't know who you are. And then I go back to the window alone, but then I was really like a zombie. I have no memories of that 3 years.
Was it like a coping mechanism to just survive?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was my way to, even I create a new personality, you know. I mean, it was not me, it was Yasmina. Before, when I was with my ex, I was Alexandra. I create a new person for my ex.
In the 20 years that Raymond Venema worked as a police officer in the Red Light District, he met very few women who voluntarily chose to work behind the windows.
I think it would be like maybe 5 or 10 that I know of. And there are some being forced in one way or another, or they felt forced to do the work. And after they pay their debt or whatever, now it's time to collect the money for myself. To me, they are not voluntary women.
During his career, Raymond not only witnessed sexual exploitation and trafficking, but all possible forms of violence, from assault to manslaughter and even the murder of sex workers.
So think about the most horrible thing that can happen. I've seen it in 20 years, but it's part of the job, and you find a way to handle it. One story was the Hungarian Betty, 19 years old, just given birth to a son, if I'm correct. In February, during a night, she got murdered, stabbed to death, and they never solved the case. And that was a crazy story. And while she was pregnant, the man stood in line with presents for the unborn baby to have sex with a woman who's pregnant. But also the attempt to murder, when you enter and people are still alive, but that bad injured, they think, okay, I hope you're going to make it.
By who?
Sometimes by the customer. Some say, okay, no, it was her pimp. Yeah, okay, but I don't have a pimp. Okay. If you see that kind of violence, that's heavy.
Frits Rauwvoet, a Christian aid worker, started an organization in 2005 that helps women leave prostitution. His office is in the middle of the Red Light District. I joined him on one of his weekly walks along the windows.
I think many of these girls, I think all, none of them was dreaming to be here as a prostitute standing in a vitrine. Everybody is looking to you, trying to make pictures, filming. And there is an other purpose for their life. And when they want, of course, we can push nobody. When they want, we have everything in our organizations. We have social workers, we have people with knowledge about the law, also international rights, a job coach. We give some trainings, make your dreams true. I think many people, especially these girls, they are dreaming over their dream, but they are not living their dream.
How many girls have you ever met, like during these 17 years, that did this work voluntarily because they really wanted to?
None. And of course, when you go to the girls and you ask, do you like the job? She will say yes. Of course, you don't say to someone who you don't know, and now I hate the job. I was raped when I was a child or a teenager. But I think when you know them better and you have a kind of a friendship, relationship, then you will share more. And then you hear what was happened when she was a child or a teenager, or the debts that she has, or she was raped so many times. So she said now by herself, okay, I will control it, I will make money for it. And so for the girls that I know and that I hear from them, none of them was here as a volunteer, and it was a free choice. None. Totally none. The girls from East Europe, they say everybody comes here through someone.
Through somebody?
Yes. It's maybe not always the one who is beating you, is kidnapping you, or no. In East Europe, you have a good husband, good partner, when he is not beating you. It's not always a pimp. I know really some girls that he don't like that she is working here in prostitution, but it's the situation. So not all the guys are the bad ones, but there are not so many. Through all the years? Maybe 5? I don't know.
How many women in these 17 years that you've been doing this work actually successfully got out?
I think for sure I can say around 350. We were helping more girls, but from some others I know they are back and working in another country, or in escort, or in a club.
But Frits, in 17 years, only 350 girls who got out. For you, it might seem like an accomplishment, but it's not a lot, is it?
No, and when we look, and that was before Corona, in Amsterdam they say we have 4,000, maybe 8,000 girls over the year in prostitution. We don't know. 10, other researchers say 90%, that's a big difference, are trafficked. We don't know. But let's say 10% from 4,000, that's 400 girls who are raped daily more times against their will. And we do nothing, and we accept it, and the society say, the government has everything under control. That's what we say.
And do you think the government has everything under control?
No, totally not.
In 2019, the mayor of Amsterdam, Femke Halsema, proposed a plan to close a significant number of windows and to establish an erotic center elsewhere in the city, in order to reduce tourist nuisance and crime in the area, as well as to create better working conditions for the sex workers. Red Light District residents Els Iping and Bert Knapp share their thoughts.
I think it's only a good plan if the windows here close. But some political parties support the idea of an erotic center, but say that still at the Red Light District, the windows must stay as well, because the women want that. I think it's unbelievable, and we try to say, no, it has to be either. Or it has to leave, it has to stop here. And I am a bit hesitant about that there will be no exploitation, but that's the idea of the mayor. You can never guarantee that there are no victims of trafficking anywhere. So I think that will be the problem of the erotic center as well.
It might be better for the neighborhood because this main attraction, this tourist magnet will not be here anymore. But what does it mean for the girls? They will not be on the streets anymore. It will be in an enclosed space. Is that a good situation for them? I really don't know.
Former Red Light police officer Raymond Venema says,
if you move it, I think that the illegal sector will be much, much bigger. I think the circumstances for the women are getting worse. These days, when you are in the field, you have contact with the sex workers. So if there's something going on, they can just knock on the window and tell what's going on. If you are put somewhere far, far, far away, the contact between like a police man and a prostitute will be less. Help organizations, social workers, I hope they find a way over there. So I think for the position of the sex worker, it's bad.
In May 22, Mayor Femke Halsema announced new measures to reduce tourist nuisance in the Red Light District. The measures would include a ban on the sale of alcohol, earlier closing times, increased crowd management, including the closure of various parts of the area, and a tougher stance on drug dealing. Until now, these plans have met with much criticism from red light entrepreneurs, landlords, and sex workers. I reached out to Mayor Femke Halsema to hear her views on the problems in the Red Light District, but my interview request was denied. The plans for a new erotic center in another area are still on the table. Amsterdam City Council is considering various options and is still searching for a suitable location. Will the Red Light District ever be closed? Nobody knows. But no matter how it turns out, I intend to continue my research project. And I sincerely hope that this documentary will encourage others to reconsider their thinking about the district, and in particular, about the women behind the windows. The bleak reality behind the Red Light District was produced and presented by me, Anne Holtel. The edit was done by Ivo Samplonius. And a special thanks to journalist Renate van der Zee and to Ben Fox from Monk Studios.
The documentary is just one of our BBC World Service podcasts. There are many others to choose from.
What's it like working as an outsider, as an American, inside arguably the most secretive country in the world, North Korea?
And how do you go about tracking hackers in real time, even reading their messages?
I'm Jean Lee. I opened the first and only U.S. news bureau in North Korea.
And I'm Jeff White, an investigative journalist covering tech and organised crime.
And we're back with a brand new episode of our podcast, The Lazarus Heist, recorded in front of a live audience in New York City.
We're joined on stage by a North Korean defector and a cybersecurity expert who tracks hackers.
And there's even some advice about trying to keep yourself safe from hackers online.
That's our new special live episode of The Lazarus Heist, the podcast about hacking and North Korea. The Lazarus Heist live show, it's available now.
And we're excited to tell you we're returning soon with a second season of The Lazarus Heist.
So if you haven't done so already, what better moment to listen to the whole of Season 1? Or, if you've heard it already, listen again. Remind yourself of the story.
For the new episode, and for the whole of the first season, search for The Lazarus Heist wherever you found this podcast.
Hello, I'm Katya Adler, host of the Global Story podcast from the BBC. Each weekday, we break down one big news story with fresh perspectives from journalists around the world. From artificial intelligence to divisive politics tearing our societies apart. From the movements of money and markets to the human stories that touch our lives, we bring you in-depth insights from across the BBC and beyond. Listen to The Global Story wherever you get your BBC podcasts.